we're talking about the front page of the Daily Mail, Carole.
Yeah, we are.
This is you, isn't it? It's about menopausal women.
Well, darling, I'm so past that, it's not funny. But anyway...
Well, what's your excuse then for your behaviour?
Well, I wasn't late and I'm not cranky. Well, no, I am cranky.
You are cranky.
This is a great story, I think, because it may be crossed today, because it's saying that bosses are warned that they are breaching equality laws unless they allow menopausal women certain privileges. Now, one of the things is that they're allowed to wear cooler uniforms at work. Absolutely right. One of the other things is they're saying they should be able to go and have a little rest in the afternoon or whenever if they're feeling a little bit tired or anxious. Well, you know, that would work for you, Bev, wouldn't it?
Lovely.
That would work for you on air if you needed to go and lie down. No, but what I think is that this is making the menopause an illness, a disease. It's not. The Equality Commission, when it was discussing this, said they are applying the same criteria to menopausal women as they are to disabled people. This is just nonsense. This is a part of ageing. It's not an illness. It's a human condition that women have been through for years, and women now get more help with it than they've ever had before. Women of my mum's generation got nothing. They were just told to crack on and go to work,
which they did.
Well, some of them did, but then lots of people were very ill and some people took their own lives. I mean, I completely agree with you, Carole. Treating it like an illness is actually contributing to this fear amongst women of my age about the menopause. It's all we get sent on social media, posts about looking, you know, waiting for any symptoms in case you're nearly there yet, and all this kind of stuff, which is just so boring and depressing to have to think about. And I do think that I think the other problem is about the being able to take a little rest. Actually, I think anyone should be allowed to do that if there's like a certain break. Yeah, because I've worked for a company.
You don't get paid to have a little rest.
No, but if you say you've got an allotted lunch break and it's half an hour, right? And then what you decide to do is take it at 4 p.m. and have a nap in a special nap room. What's wrong with that? Then you're more productive. It's what all
because you know what's wrong with that? It might not suit the person who's paying your wages, which I think is the most important. But you know what really worries me on this? This will be a barrier. Some employers will say, I'm not employing them.
That's right, yeah. Exactly.
Because if I say boo to them on a bad day, they're going to go crying to thing and say, this is discrimination. I want compensation.
I need to lie down.
And I want compensation.
But you see,
so I think
you could say that about pregnancy, couldn't you?
Yes, as
very
well.
much are viewed as a liability if they are of fertile years, and women are not a liability of fertile years.
Well, I think there are some small firms.
There are.
There definitely are.
Because they fear a woman of a certain age is going to have children and they can't afford the maternity.
Definitely.
And the paternity leave now as well, don't forget.
Well, absolutely.
Dad gets leave too.
Yeah, but I mean, we still only get 2 weeks. You know, the thing that you can do now is share the leave between you. But most women don't want to do that because they want to be with their babies, and that's just sort of natural. It's what people want to do.
Before, this was good for the fact that there was discrimination among childbearing women meant that older women got a preference. Now they're not going to, because it will swing in the other way.
Well, which women are going to get a preference? You know what I mean? The youngest one.
You have been through the menopause. How difficult was it?
Well,
how difficult was it for your husband?
Well, it was very difficult for him, obviously. But I'm not so worried about that.
Life is difficult for her husband.
But the bottom line was, I was hot all of the time. I had all the night sweats. But you know what? My mum had always just said to me, it's what happens. Just move on.
Too. Yeah, mine too.
Get on with it.
Get on with it, you know. It'll pass. And that's the other thing. You know, women now, when they go into perimenopause, which, you know, I didn't know what that was, but I had that as well. So how long are employers going to have to put up? It's just before it starts. You start getting some of the
symptoms. So you might feel more tired, or you might feel like you have more extreme PMT, and your periods become a little bit erratic, and maybe you have a bit of brain fog.
Which is honestly all my friends talk about. Say they're really hot on one day, they'll tell me, I think I'm perimenopausal. It's like all women of my age talk about. And we are so afraid of it now.
Why are you afraid?
The more information we've got about it, the worse. It's the way it's being talked about.
Yeah.
And we've got to somehow get back to this place of, we've got, like exactly what you said, Carole, we've got the best treatment now, we've got the best help, we've got the best support. It's nothing to worry about.
Look after your health and try not to be overweight will make it worse. Try not to drink too much will make it worse. Get decent sleep if you can.
We're just molly-coddling. It's just more molly-coddling, isn't it? If it's not your mental health now, it's the menopause.
Well, how long before women who have a period have to have a bit of a lie down at work?
Well, that's been talked about loads, hasn't it, in the past?
That's just ridiculous. This is part of the human condition. You know, men get stuff. Men get, I think, the equivalent of the menopause.
There is talk of the menopause.
Because they're losing hormones and exactly the same.
Dips.
Yeah, all of that.
They just go out and get a motorbike and a girlfriend 20 years ago.
Well, exactly.
Don't they? And then go back to work. Maybe that's where we're going wrong. Actually,
I think that's probably what we're doing.
Or they might get a boyfriend 20 years ago.
But men aren't, what's the word, ministered to in the same way that women are.
Patronising. And patronising. I do think it is patronising. And I do agree with Carole. I know we're probably not meant to agree, but I do agree because this fear I see amongst my generation has just got to go. Because I was afraid of pregnancy as well for the same reasons. I was given so much information about how terrible it was going to be, how ill I was going to be, the birth, my baby might die. Like that's the whole of my pregnancy. I was so anxious because I'd been given all this information. In the end, I had an elective cesarean. She was born in 14 minutes, and she's the best thing ever.
You know what?
And it was just so easy.
It's so incredibly disempowering, this narrative, isn't it?
Completely.
We need to keep telling women you're stronger than you think. You're stronger than you think. Stop listening to all this, because do you know what happens when you pathologise illness and natural? No, not illness. When you make natural processes into an illness, people can sell you stuff. They can sell you.
And that's what it's to do with.
But
this is the new industry in women's health.
But don't you also wonder how many people on the Equality Commission who's come up with this policy are men?
Yes.
Well, they think they know.
Well, remember was it the period officer for Scotland who was a man?
A man.
I mean, just what
a trans
man
woman, I think, was a period officer for Scotland.
I think. Well, originally it was a man, though, wasn't it?
At one point, it's a trans woman.
It's
interesting because our minister here for disability, called Mims Davies, I'm not sure if that's a man or a woman. That's a female. Okay, she said she's made a statement on this. Now, why has she? She's the minister for disabled people, so that means they are classing menopause as a disability.
This is the stuff that Esther McVeigh, who's gone in to be the commentator,
should be dealing with.
Exactly. Do you know what? The one thing I would say though is that there is a huge inequality in women's and men's healthcare. You know, and like even I didn't realise this, but only in the past 10 years we've had scientific studies that include women. Did you know that? And the reason women were left out is because of periods and menopause. They were seen as dirtying the baseline. Yes, exactly. So we're nowhere near the equality that we need in healthcare, but this is absolutely the wrong thing to be talking about.
I think if you've got, do you know what I think it is as well? If we have more women in positions of influence and power in companies, you won't have to have this legislated because you might just have a little bit more compassionate leadership, and you might be able to go to your female boss and go,
absolutely.
I didn't sleep at all last night. Do you mind if I go home a little bit earlier and I'll make up the time on Friday, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
People will be accommodating without it needing to lead to lawsuits and a right.
I was just going to say, if you legislate, that equals compensation. That's what's going to put employers off. And I think you're right. You know, I read in your story today, it said that there was a lot of discrimination against women with the menopause. I don't believe that because I believe employers are frightened enough already that if you said, I need a bit of a lie down, someone would say, well, go and have 10 minutes to yourself in the tea room and then come back. I think the employers do that already. The guys that have to be dealt with, the employers, are the ones who say, oh, it's...
time in the month, love.
Yes, exactly. The ones who behave like that.
Nobody really does that anymore.
I don't think they do.
I think the culture has moved on, that we don't necessarily need it to be written in law.
No. Think about that woman employee thing, because I can always remember a very moving story. When we had the first woman speaker, Betty Boothroyd, we will talk about the speaker we've got at the moment, currently. She spotted that Mo Molam, who was a young Labour MP, was struggling. She called her into it and said, what's going on? She was having cancer treatment. She said, come into my office any time for a lie down in the afternoon.
Really?
That's so kind, isn't it? And that's what you need.
And that's what you need. That sort of grow. And that,
definitely.
I don't think a male speaker would have done that.
Well, no, and I think men are just so afraid, aren't they? They don't know what to say. Maybe they do want to help sometimes and they think they're going to say the wrong thing. And I do think you're completely right, actually, Bev, about that dynamic. If you've got a female boss, you're probably going to tell us something more personal. And then maybe it's important. Well, it's obviously important to have women in leadership because the rates are so terrible.
It's interesting you talk about Mo Molam. I bet she never took that lie down. Anyone who knew her, the woman was a powerhouse.
She was.
Right,